Well, hey, how y'all doing out there today? Listen, earlier today, a brother of mine had a little fun with me, picking on me about some fracking and some big oil. And most people who know me know that I hate this more than anything. I think it's one of the worst things for our planet, for our lives, especially fracking, and then all the big oil lives. But anyway, he had made a comment about a guy that gave us oil and taught man how to frack. And this was coming from a brother, by the way, that's a farmer and a grower and a good brother. So he knew better than what he was saying. So he was just picking on me. And I came back real strong and real firm and real mean, ready to fight, really mad at my brother. And Keith, I'm sorry. So I'm telling this story as it is because there's a lesson here, y'all. Well, I've been spending all day wondering why I got so mad about it. I asked one question, I didn't even wait for an answer, and it got me, and it was about the subject matter. Y'all, we got to take this fracking serious, this big old thing serious, this selling our resources to the Chinese and to the Canadians, to other countries, the CSG part of it and the uranium part of it, because the mining and the toxic aftermath from the mining of especially these two items, the coal seam gas. They gave permission to level the mountaintops so they could get closer to the coal seam beds, so the stinking ass Chinese energy companies ain't even got to drill so deep to get to them. They set up for this. It's pretty much a done deal. But did y'all ever even stop and understand where fracking come from, and that it's been turned down a half a dozen times as a way of getting oil or natural gas or coal seam gas? Um, and then all of a sudden, Dick Cheney is vice president in 2000, and in 2007 we have the Halliburton loophole where they can frack anywhere in the world. I'm gonna start y'all out real quick. Fracking and water control go hand in hand, and it's been that way from the conception of fracking, because fracking began, believe it or not, right after the Civil War, when the federal government had a surplus of torpedoes that they were using with their ironclads, and they had just, the torpedo was a new weapon back then. Water warfare was a new weapon, but it was for ships. And they take these torpedoes and they drop them down into old oil wells and blow the well and get a little bit more oil out of it. But it caused earthquakes, and even the oil barons back in the day, in the 1800s, said, "No, we can't do this." Well, somewhere around the 60s, late 50s and early 60s, Halliburton began messing with coal seam beds and coal seam gas and horizontal drilling, where they would actually drill down into a coal seam bed. And they had not invented the directional drill head yet, so originally they were going down in different spots, and then they would blow the coal seam bed and the gas would rise. But the problem was this would release a lot of methane, and the methane would rise along with the coal seam gas, and it would get into the water supply and taint everything. They tried this concrete casing. They tried all kinds. Matter of fact, Halliburton owns every concrete casing on every fracking rig everywhere in the world. That's strange. They're the only company that still hold an interest, or corporation that still hold an interest, a holding in everything that they've sold something to, that concrete. They use that plastic concrete they use as a casing. So anyway, but somewhere around the mid 60s, the Russians started trying to frack too, and they were going into a coal seam bed. And this was over in Kazakhstan, Russia. And y'all can look this up. This was around, I think, 1960. I think it was around when I was born, about 1964, if I'm not mistaken. But right there, mid 60s. And instead of hitting their spot, they hit a methane bed, a big, large methane pocket. It was so large, the Russian scientists knew that the Soviet scientists and the drilling people thought they had just began an extinction level event. They thought they had destroyed the planet. They thought that methane was fixing to smother us all. They didn't know what to do. So y'all know what they did, y'all? They lit it up. They lit it up, and it's called the Gates of Hell. Look up the Gates of Hell, Kazakhstan, Russia. Look at that. They about destroyed us with this fracking. Now, in saying that, I just want you to remember that Rex Tillerson just made a $300 billion deal for them to frack the Arctic for Russia. This same Russian energy company, because they ain't changed who they are, is going to now frack the Arctic, which the polar cap is covering what? The world's largest methane bed, which was the methane, supposedly the methane, that was the methane that caused the ice age, and it went up there and froze. That was the extinction level for supposedly the dinosaur age. We don't know what's going on, but there is was a level of extinction caused by methane, and it's frozen under the Arctic cap that now Russia gets to frack. So here's what I'm getting at. So that's why I get mad about fracking, y'all. I do see a balance using oil and different kind of power sources, natural gas, wind, solar, but we need competitive things like this. Oil only got to be oil because of gasoline. You notice that we're sitting here talking right now on this. I try to point this out often. We're sitting here talking on this gadget, our phone, our computer, our we take pictures, we take videos. Everything we do right here on this little device. But we've been on the same gasoline engine for over 125 years. Think about that. Plus, it was not invented to be a gasoline engine. It was invented to be a hemp fuel. Henry Ford and Rudolph Diesel both invented their engines to run off hemp fuel, not diesel, because there was no diesel, and not gasoline. This was something that was very abundant and cheap, and it seemed like a good idea. But these men became so rich by powering the military-industrial complex and the Industrial Revolution, by the way, that they became so rich that even when they knew it was bad, we've been hearing all these stories about how ExxonMobil and all these other big oil groups knew that they were causing problems around the planet, that they were causing certain parts of this climate change or the greenhouse effects or whatever, just poisoning the land. They lied. They lied to us. That's because old money kept running this. Old money is why you're in a car today and not in some other source of transportation. Old money is why people like Nikola Tesla got looked at to be crazy by old J.P. Morgan, because he had that money. He owned all the coal burning power stations. These people have been in power for a long time. That's the only reason any of you are brainwashed into thinking that oil, coal, coal seam gas, shale oil, or any of those other toxic things that have to be refined that you see kill us, pollute us, or toxic, petroleum. You've been brainwashed because old money runs the show and they tell you that oil's good. It's not. And not only is it not good, it's not the most abundant source of energy anymore, and it's way not the cleanest. There's been so many things. There was a centrifugal engine, y'all, that got shut down by Lee Iacocca back in the 80s. You could literally just pull a rope and run off the centrifugal force of this engine that just ran off gyros. Yeah, it would only do 40 miles an hour, but it was transportation with no fuel source. The only petroleum it needed was a little oil on the gears, and you could have done that, and the gyros, and you could have done that with hemp oil. But there should be a competitive market. We know the oil barons aren't going to give up complete control, but why aren't we, like with aluminum and plastic, why aren't we using hemp, industrial hemp, for fuel, for textiles, for products, and backing away from the more toxic things, especially when we're at critical mass, when we're beyond halfway point on consumption, when our creeks and rivers are poisoned, y'all, our children are dying, our water catches on fire. They come up with crazy reasons that after the Civil War, as I just showed you, and I hope you look up, after the Civil War, they said fracking was a bad idea when they invented it with a water weapon torpedo. So fracking comes from weapon warfare, because listen, y'all, straight up, for every dollar that they put into fracking, it costs about $1.30 to get that coal seam gas. Did you ever stop and think about that? And they always do it with the water, and it takes 2 million gallons of water to frack a well, and now they control cleaning the water and giving it back to you. Now they turn water into a commodity. This is what fracking was all about. So whatever about drilling oil, I see pumpers around here. I live in West Virginia. I see pumpers around with the 5,000 gallon tankers right there with the chemical wall around it, spill wall around it. These are local people making a little bit of money off oil. But why ain't there a hemp field by it for competition? And if hemp oil or hemp fuel couldn't take over what oil does, well, why can't it at least help out? So if it ain't going to take over, then what was you worried about to begin with? It's called fear, and it is because Tony the Tiger in your tank has brainwashed you. Big oil behind the scenes has brainwashed you just as bad as big tobacco brainwashes with a toxic product. The only way that they can make us kill ourselves in masses is by group thinking and making us think toxic things are good. They did this with oil. They did this with oil. They did this with coal seam gas, and they have done it with tobacco. They did it with refined sugar. Refined sugar, you think that's great? That's a cancer-causing piece of shit. But hey, man, we're human beings. Some things, some of us got a sweet tooth. But we never had to have these petroleum products, y'all. It is from old money. It is from old money and old bad ideas, and them throwing their money at their same old bad ideas. People like John Paul Getty, they keep control. They keep this big, giant amount of money. They keep the world politics the way they want it to keep their flow of oil. But it's outdated, and they know it. And that's why the Chinese are about to take over, and that's why the Chinese are buying out all the coal seam gas. But here's the thing. What the Chinese and the coal seam gas companies, the frackers, what the frackers around the world are doing right now, let's just get it clear, is 100 times worse, easy. Maybe 1,000, but at least 100 times worse than what big oil did between, say, around 1880 to 1920, and began the Industrial Revolution and the military-industrial complex. This is going to be military-industrial complex part 2, and it's going to have English subtitles because it's going to be made in China. So I'm not making a joke, but that's the way it's going to be. There's going to be a new military-industrial complex because, man, they make money off these fuel sources. But you were lied to. So, Keith, I'm sorry, brother, about getting so mad about and hollering at you, hollering at you about fracking, and God didn't intend for you to have fracking. But it is a touchy subject, and it should be a touchy subject with every single one of you out there, because I've seen them bury babies in Australia that died from methane poisoning. I saw where the Australian government was lying to their people and telling them that water that was catching on fire was okay to drink and okay to take a bath in. Methane has no odor, so these people didn't even know that they were breathing that shit every day. They watched their kids bleed out from the ears, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, every little orifice on their little bodies. They buried their children and they committed suicide. That's happened here in Pennsylvania. That's happened in Ohio. That's happened in New York. That's happened out in California. It's happened every damn where across this globe, y'all. Fracking kills. It was bad enough. Here's the bottom line. It was bad enough that we used oil and we're going to use natural gas. But fracking ain't the way to go. It's not even an American fuel source. I don't even know why we do it here. Britain, I love the work. And Francis Leader, thank you, sister. Namaste. I love you. Thank you. Keep the eyes open. Keep hollering and yelling. Fracking kills. No fracking Earth. No fracking France. No fracking Europe. No fracking the USA. No fracking Australia. No fracking the fucking Earth. It's deadly. I would rather you use oil. And that comes from a man that hates big oil and knows who they really are in the grand scheme of things of the New World Order and even who you are today. But I would rather see you use big oil, drink it, than see fracking done. Because you know what? They can't even store the shit, y'all. They're going to find some crazy use with it, like they did with fluoride from aluminum. In the 1940s, they didn't know what to do with the toxic byproduct fluoride. The war was over. It was the late 40s. They're like, well, hell, we'll do like the Nazis, and we'll put it in the fucking water and make our people stupid. And here we are today, letting a fracking rig be built by our house. Tear it down. I'll tell you to tear it down. Any police want to come out there and holler at me, well, wait till they got one built by their house. They'll be tearing it down too. And it's coming everywhere now. This administration just opened up a can of worms for the Chinese and the Canadians. Why do you think the pipelines are everywhere? They got pipeline. Now the Dakota Access Pipeline is fixing to end up in Louisiana. So good luck with them Cajuns. And let me tell you something to my southern brothers down there in Louisiana and the tribes down there, them southern tribes, kick that fucking ass. Creek, Choctaw, Cherokee, go on over there and help your brothers. Seminole, get off your ass. Well, I know y'all got problems in the Everglades. Y'all wake these Native Americans up. They's our brothers and sisters anyway. They kick your fucking ass. They're tired of it down south. They saw what you did to our brothers out west. Everybody's tired of it. This is why I get fired up about fracking and pipelines. These two things are deadly. There's no sense to have them except for making corporations richer. Okay? It doesn't help your car out. It doesn't help your gas mileage out. It doesn't help you save money. It doesn't help you make money. It helps them make money. It takes away jobs, in fact. It took away trucker jobs just for these pipelines. 3,500 trucker jobs would go straight back to ExxonMobil alone if they had took away their pipeline, their 2.6 million miles of pipeline in America right now. Think about that. But it's all burning something. Y'all killing me. You're killing me. You're killing the planet. And that's all we got is this Mother Earth. Look back there. And she loves you. She still loves you. She wishes that you would use her medicinal and good things about her, but please just don't kill her. If you're not going to use the good things the mother offers, at least don't kill her, because all she's ever offered you is a natural life, a sustained life on this planet. That's all this planet has ever gave you. So don't let them frack it. Don't let them frack Russia up there. That $300 billion deal. I know everybody says it's a done deal. Somehow that's got to be stopped. If those Russians mess up again, like they did in the mid-'60s with the gates of hell, and I think it was 1966 maybe, the gates of hell in Kazakhstan, Russia, if they fuck up like they did then, they can't just light that one up. It's the North fucking Pole. Not to mention fracking and methane release causes a 5 to 15% natural temperature increase around you. So why are you fracking the North Pole and going to melt the permafrost, you dumb motherfuckers? I thought you were scientists and geologists. No, you are geoengineer type geologists for the New World Order energy whores. And that's what we got for you. But the rest of y'all, get fired up about fracking. Get mad. Don't be picking no more. And keep, that's cool between me and you. That was my reason to get this out like this. I don't care if it's a joke. It's time to slap some heads. It's time to snatch some knots. It's time to stand in front of these people and say, no, we're not going to die for you and your profit. We're not going to die for your board of directors. And we don't care. Because we live in the field where your fracking rigs are, not you. Remember that. And the people that you send out for security people for fracking rigs, that's going to tell you something. You're in my backyard. You might be around that fracking rig and you might have your company logo on with your little badge. You might even have a weapon. But you in my backyard, motherfucker. I want you to remember that. You're in a hillbilly's backyard when you're up in the Appalachian Mountains. You're in a Seminole Indian's backyard when you're in the Everglades. You're around the Apache and when you go out west, good Lord. Men out there eat you alive. That's their history. Now you're down in Dixie. Oh, goodness gracious. They've got something down there called a redneck. You don't want to wake them up. I'm sorry, y'all. I get emotional about this. It's all we got. Y'all ain't been really paying attention to what these pipelines do. And y'all ain't been burying these babies like a lot of us have out here. I ain't the only one. I'm a small part of this. People got way worse than me. I didn't even grow up around fracking. I couldn't believe it when I saw what they was doing to our water. I grew up on rivers like the Tom Bigby and the Black Warrior River. They were legends. They were entities, life force. Now they got fracking rigs. Look at Tuscaloosa, Alabama with 4,000 fracking rigs. And they don't even use coal seam gas in Alabama. Y'all don't even use coal in Alabama. What do you got coal washing stations for on the Tom Bigby River? Huh? You ain't never swam in the Black Warrior River. You never heard the legends of it. You never stopped by a river and just listen to it. Listen to it speak back to you. Have you? Oh, Lord, I got to get off here. Y'all don't even know what you're messing with. Something's more spiritual. Water is life. That's not even the joke of nothing. In the whole expansion of the universe, water is life. Think about that. Because what they're giving you is death. And some of us ain't going to put up with it. So you're going to lose a lot of loved ones. You're going to see a lot of people go to jail. You may even see people disappear like they already are over in Australia, where reporters and individuals that stood up, warriors that stood up and said and started pointing this out, all of a sudden these people start disappearing. Ask around. Why is it now a 7-year charge in jail? Go to jail for 7 years in Australia, a country that is completely against jail for this kind of stuff, just for protesting against fracking, when you used to could just protest against it. Because they're waking people up. They're showing people that this is deadly, that the shale oil and the coal seam gas, don't play into your big oil's okay. Or I need oil for gasoline. Coal seam gas and shale oil and that toxic shit that these Canadians dug up have nothing to do with your energy source. Oil is gone nowhere. There's plenty of oil. There's plenty of natural gas. You don't need the rest. It's because other countries bought it and they're paying big money for it. They bought West Virginia for $84 billion. Think about that. I love y'all. Get mad. It's time to get mad. That's all I can tell you. Peace to the earth. war to the frackers. Fuck you bastards. Who the hell do you think you are? Tell you one thing we don't do when you bring that damn pipeline down, that Mount Valley pipeline down the Appalachian Trail. We don't live in fear in the Appalachian Mountains, motherfucker. Bet that.